Thank you, Madam President. I am indeed undeterred because I believe that the principles and values that created this great country are great. And those people back then recognized that we must at all costs maintain our freedoms, that the government must be responsible to the people, and that we need to provide protections to make sure that our government does not go too far and interfere with those freedoms. We need to maintain our freedom of speech and the press and our ability to assemble and to petition our government. But we also need to provide for our own protection. And that's the purpose of the Second Amendment. This bill, Madam President, is only going to impact a few random people that get caught up in it. I submit it will not even catch a single person who is intending to do harm with a so-called ghost gun. The few cases that have been discussed about ghost guns in the news, those people violated plenty of other laws. Mainly, they transferred an illegal firearm. We don't need a new law to catch that. We have that law. In my email inbox the other day, I got the briefing from the Connecticut Against Gun Violence, and I went through it, and I always listen and try and understand exactly what they're saying. But I thought it was really interesting that they mentioned a bunch of statistics about gun violence in our state. And so I went and I printed the articles, and one of them I found shocking. It's from February of 2018, Groundhog Day, actually, from NBC Connecticut, and the reporter is Shvang Puri, and I'm sorry if I made a mess of the name. But this is about guns stolen in Connecticut showing up in crime scenes. Something that concerns me greatly and something that's never addressed in this building. Year after year after year after year, our crime statistics, they don't change much because almost all of the gun violence that does happen is by illegally owned firearms in the cities. That's what it is. And our laws about numbers in the chamber, and we're going to go after this certain kind of rifle. It doesn't affect any of that. And it just continues and continues, and you have gang violence, and you have illegal guns that are stolen from homes and cars, which we talked about earlier, and they end up in crimes. But I want to just point out a couple things. In this article, I found it fascinating because there is a claim in here that says, however, in Connecticut, criminals are unlikely to face punishment for stealing a gun. In fact, over the last 5 years, charges for stealing a firearm were dropped more than 70% of the time. And they link to an OLR report, an Office of Legislative Research report, which I printed out so I would have it tonight. And sure enough, I go through and read through the firearm stats, and I have those statistics right here. It says from 2013 to 2017, we don't have anything later than that yet. But it looks like there were a total of around 250, 300 stealing a firearm offenses. But only 50 or 60 each year were prosecuted and the person was found guilty. In more than 75% of the cases, they were nollied. So that goes to something I say all the time when we have this gun control argument, which is what we should be doing. Well, the first thing we should be doing is we should be prosecuting the laws we have. If we're failing to prosecute the laws that we have, then what are good or more laws? We need to actually hold people accountable when they put other people at risk. There's also a bunch of statistics that talk about the repeat offenders, people we know who have committed these crimes in the past. And yet, year after year, this legislature passes more and more policies that hold criminals less and less accountable. We have the Earned Risk Reduction Program that lets people out for good behavior simply for signing up for something they never even attend. We had the Raise the Age bill. There's car thefts galore all across this state because of that. And I would submit that some of these young people that are getting their start in crime stealing cars will ultimately be people that end up in these statistics over here. We need to go the other way. We need to actually prosecute the crime that happens before us. I know I've been talking quite a while without getting to the substance of the amendment, so I will do that. The amendment does exactly that. After that terrible tragedy in Newtown, this body passed a sweeping gun control bill. And I will tell you, as I already mentioned, some of that I don't think had any effect, but there were good things in it. And one of the good things that was in it was the creation of something called the Statewide Firearms Trafficking Task Force. This is a program designed to allow law enforcement agencies all across our state to work together in concert to track and apprehend people that traffic in stolen firearms. In the process, they catch all sorts of other crimes, drug trafficking and gang activity and that kind of thing. And I talked to officers involved in that program. But you know what's so sad, ladies and gentlemen, is that that program was funded for 1 year, the year after we passed the bill. And then I guess it was passé, and this legislature didn't see fit to fund it ever again after. This amendment, Madam President, strikes the underlying bill, which will have no effect on catching criminals or making our world a safer place or stopping gun violence, and replaces it with something that actually will. It funds that program again. And it takes the money from something that we can all do without, which is the money that goes into the fund that pays for our campaigns, our political campaigns, the Citizens Election Program. So, Madam President, I'm offering a choice to this body. They can either do something that is completely effective, that we know works, to help crack down on crime and to go to the heart of the problem, and the only expense is they're going to have a few less bumper stickers in their next campaign. Or you can vote down my amendment and we can continue to bother some guy who is just trying to follow his hobby and not impact any criminals whatsoever. I urge my colleagues to do the right thing today. Please pass this amendment. Please tell the people in this state that we want to do something about gun violence for real for once. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators.